If you're watching this, it means I'm still here. For now. I know how that sounds paranoid, dramatic, maybe even desperate for attention. But I need you to listen, because what I'm about to tell you isn't a joke or some viral stunt or a creepypasta for cheap clicks. I wish it was. I wish I could laugh it off, close the tab, and go back to pretending everything's normal. But I can't. Not after what I saw. You know Kai Cenat, right? Of course you do. Everyone does. The king of chaos, the late-night legend. The guy who can turn a boring Tuesday into a meme fest with a single click. I've been watching his streams for years, hell. I've probably spent more time in his chat than I have with my own family. It's always the same. The spam, the inside jokes, the wild energy that makes you feel like you're part of something bigger, even if you're just a username in a sea of thousands. That's what I thought I was signing up for last week. Just another night, another stream, another chance to laugh at whatever wild stunt Kai had planned. But this time, something was different. Something was wrong. And the weirdest part? Nobody's talking about it. Not on Twitter, not in the Discord, not even in the deep corners of the subreddit where people dissect every second of every VOD. It's like it never happened. Or like everyone who saw it decided to forget. But I can't forget. I keep replaying it in my head, over and over, trying to convince myself it was just a glitch or a prank, or maybe I was just too tired to trust my own eyes. But the more I think about it, the more I realize there's a reason nobody's talking about what happened to Kai. Maybe they can't. Maybe they're not allowed. I know how this sounds. I know you're probably rolling your eyes, waiting for the punchline. But trust me, this isn't a story you want to laugh at. This isn't a story you want to know. But it wasn't just another night. Not this time. If you've ever tuned into a Kai Cenat stream, you know the drill. The second you join, it's like stepping into a digital riot chat flying by so fast you can barely read a single message. Everyone's spamming W Kai or L take, depending on his mood. The mods desperately trying to keep up with the chaos. There's this weird comfort in it, like a familiar song you can't help but sing along to, even if you don't know all the words. It's loud, it's messy, it's alive. That night was no different at first. I remember the anticipation, the way the Discord was buzzing hours before he even went live. People were speculating about what he'd do. Another prank call marathon, maybe a surprise guest, or one of those unhinged sleep streams where he pretends to rest but ends up wrestling with his own blanket for 3 hours straight. I'd seen it all before. I'd laughed at the same jokes, dropped the same emotes, even gotten banned once for spamming Riz God too many times. It was all part of the ritual. When the stream finally started, it was like slipping into a well-worn hoodie. Kai's face filled the screen, grinning, hyped, already talking a mile a minute. The chat exploded. Yes, sir. We up. W streamer. The energy was infectious. He started off with the usual reacting to memes, roasting his own chat, calling out regulars by name. I even saw my username flash by when he read a donation. For a second, I felt like I was part of the show, like I mattered. He did the thing where he pretends to rage quit, slamming his headphones down and storming off camera, only to pop back up with a goofy dance. The chat went wild. Someone clipped it instantly, and within minutes, there were already memes circulating in the Discord. It was classic Kai, predictable, chaotic, and somehow comforting in its absurdity. But looking back, there were signs. Little things I ignored, like how his camera seemed to glitch for a split second when he first sat down, the colors warping just enough to make me blink, or how he kept glancing off screen, like he was watching something or someone just out of frame. At the time, I brushed it off. Maybe he was checking his phone, or maybe it was just lag. Streams glitch all the time, right? There was this moment, maybe 20 minutes in, where he laughed at something in chat, but the sound didn't match his face. His mouth was smiling, but his eyes weren't. It was subtle, the kind of thing you'd miss if you weren't looking for it. But I noticed. I told myself I was overthinking it, that I'd been watching too many horror edits on TikTok, letting my imagination run wild. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The chat didn't seem to notice. They kept spamming, kept memeing, kept the energy up like nothing was wrong. Maybe that's what made it so easy to ignore the comfort of the crowd, the safety in numbers. If nobody else was worried, why should I be? But now, replaying it in my mind, I can't help but wonder if anyone else saw what I saw. If anyone else felt that creeping sense of wrongness, buried beneath the noise and the jokes. Maybe they did, and they just didn't want to admit it. Or maybe they saw more than I did, and that's why they're silent now. It started with a glitch. Or at least, that's what I thought. Did anyone else see that? Or was it just me? I remember typing that in chat, but my message was instantly swallowed by a flood of WRIZZ and L-take and 100 dancing emotes. It was like screaming into a hurricane. Nobody heard me, or maybe nobody wanted to. But I know what I saw. It happened so fast, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Kai was in the middle of telling a story, something about a prank he pulled on his roommate, the kind of story he's told 100 times before. He was laughing, hands flying, the chat egging him on. And then, for a split second, the screen glitched. Not the usual lag or buffering, but a sharp, jagged flicker, like the pixels themselves were trying to rearrange into something else. Kai's face blurred, his features stretching and warping, his eyes going wide and dark, almost hollow. Behind him, in the corner of the room, a shadow moved quick, deliberate, and wrong. I blinked and it was gone. The stream snapped back to normal. Kai still laughing, the chat still losing its mind. But I couldn't shake the image. That shadow hadn't been there before. I knew his setup, knew every poster on his wall, every LED strip, every angle of his camera. There was nothing in that corner, nothing that should have moved. I scrolled back, trying to clip the moment, but the Twitch player stuttered and froze. When I finally managed to save the clip, the file wouldn't play. It was just static, a mess of digital noise and garbled audio. Like it didn't want to be saved. I tried again and again, but every time, the same thing happened. The moment was there, burned into my memory, but every attempt to prove it just made it feel more unreal. I went back to the chat, searching for anyone else who might have noticed. There were a few messages. Yo, did the stream just bug? Lag? But they were buried under a tidal wave of memes and spam. Nobody seemed to care. Nobody seemed to see what I saw. I felt this weird, creeping isolation, like I was the only one in a room full of people who realized the walls were closing in. I didn't acknowledge it. He just kept going, launching into another story, another joke, another round of chat interaction. But I noticed he was glancing over his shoulder more often, his eyes darting to that same corner, his smile a little too tight. Maybe I was projecting, but it felt like he was nervous, like he was trying to pretend everything was fine. The chat, of course, was oblivious. They kept the energy up, spamming emotes, making jokes about Kai's NPC laugh, calling for another prank. The contrast was almost dizzying on the surface. Everything was normal, even fun. But underneath, I felt this growing sense of dread, like I was watching a play where the actors didn't realize the set was on fire. I tried to tell myself it was nothing. A glitch, a trick of the light, maybe a roommate walking by off camera. But the more I thought about it, the less sense it made. The shadow had moved in a way that didn't match the room, didn't match anything I'd ever seen on his stream before. It was too fast, too deliberate, too aware. I kept watching, my eyes glued to that corner, waiting for it to happen again. My heart was pounding, my palms sweating, but I couldn't look away. I felt like I was teetering on the edge of something, like if I blinked, I'd miss the moment when everything changed. I wanted to believe I was overreacting, that I was just tired, that I'd let my imagination get the best of me. But deep down, I knew better. I knew that whatever I'd seen wasn't supposed to be there. And I knew that pretending it hadn't happened wouldn't make it go away. That was just the beginning. After that first glitch, I couldn't watch the stream the same way. Every time Kai moved, every time the camera angle shifted, I felt my stomach twist, waiting for something else to go wrong. I told myself I was being paranoid, but the feeling wouldn't go away. If anything, it got worse. At first, it was just little things. Kai would pause mid-sentence, his eyes unfocused, like he was listening to something only he could hear. He'd snap back a second later, laughing it off, but the laughter sounded forced, brittle. The chat didn't care. Lag. Bro froze IRL, NPC moment. They turned it into a joke, like they always do. But I started writing down the timestamps, just in case. 10:14 p.m. Kai's voice glitches, just for a second. It's like his mic cuts out, but the audio warps, stretching his words into something almost inhuman. Y'all, y'all, y'all. The echo lingers, then snaps back to normal. He blinks, shakes his head, and keeps going. 10:27 p.m. He stares off camera for a full 10 seconds. The chat explodes. Why Kai you good? He sees the ghost LOL. WTF is he looking at? He doesn't answer. Just sits there, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, like he's trying to remember how to be himself. 10:41 p.m. He reads a donation, but his voice drops an octave, just for a word or two. Thanks for the dono. JJJ. The name glitches, repeats, then he coughs and moves on. I rewind, play it back, but it's there every time. The chat is too busy spamming WDono to notice. I tried to warn people. I posted in the Discord. Anyone else notice the weird glitches tonight? No response. I dropped a message in chat. Kai acting off FR. Instantly buried. I even DM'd a couple of regulars I'd seen around for years. One replied with a laughing emoji. The other just left me on read. But I wasn't the only one who noticed. I started seeing weird messages pop up, quickly deleted by mods. He's not himself. Look at his eyes. Don't watch the VOD. They'd appear for a second, then vanish. I screenshotted a few, but when I checked my phone later, the images were corrupted, just black squares, like the files had been eaten from the inside out. Kai's behavior kept getting stranger. He'd go from hyperactive to dead silent in the span of a heartbeat. Sometimes he'd just sit there, staring at the camera, not blinking, not moving, like he was waiting for something. The chat would go wild, trying to get his attention, but he wouldn't respond. Then, out of nowhere, he'd snap back, grinning, cracking a joke, acting like nothing happened. But it wasn't the same. His jokes didn't land. His laugh was too sharp, too loud, like he was trying to convince himself he was still in control. There was a moment where he leaned in close to the camera, eyes wide, and whispered, "Can you see me?" The chat exploded. WTFKI, BRO tweaking, someone check on him. But he just sat back, smiling, like he'd told a private joke nobody else understood. I started to feel like I was losing my mind. I'd rewatch the clips, trying to convince myself it was just lag, just a bad connection, just Kai being weird. But the more I watched, the more I saw the cracks. The way his eyes would flicker, just for a second, turning almost black. The way his voice would double, like two people talking at once. The way the shadows in his room seemed to move on their own, stretching and twisting when he wasn't looking. I tried to talk about it in chat, but every time I brought it up, I got ignored or mocked. Bro thinks he's in a horror movie. Touch grass. It's just a filter, chill. But I knew what I saw, and I knew I wasn't alone. The messages kept popping up, more desperate now, more frantic. Don't look at him too long. Turn off your screen. He's watching us. Then, one by one, those accounts disappeared. Their messages deleted, their profiles wiped. I checked the user list, gone. Like they'd never existed. I tried to DM one of them, but the message bounced back. User not found. I felt this cold, crawling fear settle in my chest. I wasn't just being ignored. I was being warned. I started keeping a log, writing down everything I saw, every glitch, every weird moment, every deleted message. It felt like the only thing keeping me sane. But even then, I could feel something watching me, waiting for me to slip up, to look away. The worst part was how normal everything looked on the surface. The chat was still wild, the memes still flying, the donations still rolling in. But underneath, There was this sense of something rotten, something festering just out of sight, like the stream was a mask and it was starting to slip. I wasn't the only one who noticed. But the others, they're gone now. Then the DM started. The first DM came in at 2:13 a.m., hours after the stream ended. I was still at my desk, the blue glow of my monitor painting everything in that sickly, sleepless light. I'd been scrolling through my notes, trying to make sense of the glitches, the silences, the way Kai's eyes seemed to follow me even after I closed the tab. My phone buzzed, and I glanced down, expecting another Discord ping or maybe a late-night meme from a friend. But it was a message request from someone I didn't recognize. No profile picture, no mutual servers, just a string of random numbers for a username. The message was short. You're not supposed to see this. Delete your clips. Forget what you saw. I stared at it, my heart thudding. For a second, I thought it was a joke, someone from the Discord messing with me, maybe. But when I clicked on the profile, it was empty. No posts, no friends, nothing. I tried to reply, but the message wouldn't send. The account was gone, like it had never existed. I told myself it was just a troll, but then another message came in, this time on Twitter. Different account, same vibe, no followers, no tweets, just a DM. Stop digging. You don't want to end up like the others. I scrolled up, looking for context, but there was nothing. Just that one message, sitting there like a threat. I started to feel the edges of my online world closing in, the safety of anonymity suddenly paper thin. I'd always felt untouchable behind my screen, just another faceless viewer in a sea of usernames. But now, it felt like someone was reaching through the wires, pressing cold fingers against the back of my neck. The messages kept coming. Some were just strings of numbers or garbled text that looked like corrupted code. Others were more direct. Don't watch the VOD. Turn off your camera. He's not Kai anymore. That last one hit me harder than I expected. I read it over and over, the words sinking in like a splinter. He's not Kai anymore. What did that even mean? Was it a joke or something else? I tried to laugh it off, but the sound died in my throat. One account claimed to be an ex-mod. Their message was longer, more desperate. I used to help run his chat. We all saw it. The glitches, the shadows, the way he'd go blank for minutes at a time. We tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't answer. Then one day he just changed. The real Kai is gone. Whatever's on stream now, it's not him. Please, stop looking. Don't make the same mistake we did. I wanted to believe it was all a prank, some elaborate ARG, but the fear felt too real. I started checking my windows, making sure my door was locked. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. I even covered my webcam with a sticky note, just in case. It was like the paranoia was leaking out of the screen, infecting my real life. But the worst messages weren't threats. They were warnings. Don't let him see you. If you dream about him, don't wake up. Delete everything. I tried to ignore them, but they kept coming, always from new accounts, always disappearing as soon as I tried to reply. It was like someone or something was watching me, testing me, waiting to see if I'd break. I started to wonder if I was losing it. Maybe I'd spent too much time online, let the internet rot my brain. But then I got a message from someone I recognized, a regular from chat, someone I'd joked with 100 times before. Their message was simple: don't trust the mods. Don't trust anyone. If you see him in your dreams, run. That was the last I ever heard from them. Their account vanished the next day. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Kai's face, flickering and warped, his eyes black and endless. I started to hear things, whispers in the static, footsteps in the hall when I was home alone. I told myself it was just stress, just my imagination, but the fear wouldn't go away. The line between online and offline started to blur. My phone would buzz, and I'd see a notification from an account that didn't exist. My computer would freeze, the screen filling with static for a split second before snapping back to normal. Sometimes, when I looked in the mirror, I thought I saw a shadow move behind me, just out of frame. I should have stopped, but I couldn't. Obsession is a slow poison. It doesn't hit you all at once, it seeps in, drop by drop, until you can't remember what it felt like to be normal. I stopped caring about sleep, about work, about anything except finding out what was happening to Kai. I told myself I was just looking for answers, that if I could explain it, I could make it go away. But the more I dug, the less sense anything made. I started with the VODs. Twitch, YouTube, even the sketchy re-upload sites that scrape everything before it gets deleted. I watched hours of old streams, looking for glitches, for shadows, for anything that felt off. At first, it was just Kai, loud, funny, always in control. But then, in the late night streams, the ones with fewer viewers, I started to notice patterns. Little things, like the way the camera would stutter when he looked into the lens for too long, or how the audio would warp when he laughed too hard. Sometimes, the chat would freeze for a second, then flood with spam, as if something was trying to drown out a message. I found a stream from 6 months ago when I remembered watching live. Back then, it was just another night, another meme fest. But now, watching it with new eyes, I saw it. A flicker in the background, a shadow that didn't belong. Kai's face went blank for a full minute, his eyes unfocused, his mouth moving silently. The chat noticed, but the mods shut it down fast. Technical difficulties, they said. Move on. But I could see the fear in his eyes, just for a second, before the mask snapped back into place. I started searching forums, old Discord logs, anywhere people talked about Kai. Most of it was the usual memes, drama, endless debates about who had the best riz. But buried in the archives, I found threads that made my skin crawl. People talking about the thing behind the stream, about the glitch that watches. Some posts were deleted, others locked by mods. But the stories were always the same. A sudden change in behavior, a sense of being watched, accounts disappearing overnight. One post stood out. It was from a user called Null Pointer, dated almost a year ago. Anyone else notice the weird stuff in Kai's late night streams? Not just lag, like something else. I saw a face in the background once. Not his roommate. Not human. I clipped it, but the file corrupted. Mods banned me for spreading misinformation. If you see this, be careful. It's not just Kai. It's bigger than that. I tried to DM Null Pointer, but their account was gone. Deleted, wiped clean. I checked the thread again, but it had been locked. The last comment, a warning from a mod. Stop spreading rumors. Final warning. The deeper I went, the stranger it got. I found references to other streamers' names I recognized, some I didn't. Stories about sudden disappearances, channels going dark, influencers who started acting off before vanishing completely. There was a pattern, but it was like trying to piece together a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Every time I thought I had a lead, it would disappear deleted posts, banned users, corrupted files. Then I found the subreddit. Or, more accurately, I found people talking about it. r/streamwatchers. It didn't show up in search results, and the only way in was by invite. The rumors said it was where people shared stories about the thing behind the streams. But there was a catch. People who joined stopped posting anywhere else. Their accounts went dark, their messages deleted. Some said it was just paranoia, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was something more. I tried to get an invite. I messaged a few users who mentioned the sub, but none of them replied. One account sent me a single message. Don't. It's not worth it. I started to see connections everywhere. Old ARGs, viral horror stories, even creepypastas about haunted streams. But this felt different. Too many coincidences, too many people disappearing. I found a thread on a deep web forum, one of those places you not supposed to find unless you know exactly where to look. The thread was called The Signal. It was full of stories about people seeing things in streams, about voices in the static, about something that feeds on attention. The last post was a warning. If you see it, don't acknowledge it. Don't let it know you're watching. I started to wonder if I was losing my mind. I'd always prided myself on being rational, on not falling for internet hoaxes. But the evidence kept piling up. The glitches, the shadows, the missing accounts. The way Kai's streams felt less like entertainment and more like a ritual, something hungry reaching through the screen. I tried to talk to people about it, but nobody wanted to listen. My friends told me to log off, to touch grass, to stop obsessing over a streamer who didn't even know I existed. But I couldn't let it go. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that shadow, flickering just out of sight. I started to keep a list: streamers who'd gone dark, channels that vanished, stories that ended with a warning. The pattern was always the same: a sudden change, a sense of being watched, then silence. It was like something was hunting them, one by one, and nobody wanted to admit it. The rational part of me kept trying to explain it away. Glitches, burnout, trolls. But the fear was real. The silence was real. And the more I looked, the more I realized I wasn't just watching a story unfold. I was part of it now. There's a subreddit, but it's invite only. And people who join don't post again. I should have stopped. I should have let it go. But I needed to know the truth. I needed to see it for myself. Then I saw it. The thing behind Kai. It looked right at me. Through the screen. I know how that sounds. I know you're probably rolling your eyes, thinking I've finally lost it, that I've let the paranoia and sleepless nights rot my brain. But I swear to you, I'm not making this up. I wish I was. I wish I could go back to the moment before I saw it, before I realized that the screen isn't a barrier, it's a window. And sometimes, something looks back. It happened on a night when I couldn't sleep, my mind buzzing with everything I'd found. I kept replaying that one stream, the one where Kai glitched the hardest, where the chat was at its wildest and the shadows seemed to move on their own. I'd watched it a dozen times, but this time I went frame by frame, inching through every second, desperate to catch whatever my subconscious kept screaming at me to see. At first, it was just the usual chaos: Kai laughing, the chat exploding, the room behind him bathed in LED light. But then, at exactly 2 hours, 13 minutes and 47 seconds, the screen flickered. It was so fast, just a single frame, but I caught it. My heart hammered as I paused, rewound, and advanced one frame at a time. There it was. In the corner, behind Kai's chair, something was moving. Not a person, not a shadow, but something in between. Its shape was wrong, shifting and flickering, like it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. For a split second, it almost looked like a person, tall, thin, with 2 long arms and a face that was just a blur of static. But then it twisted, its features melting and reforming, eyes blooming open where there shouldn't be any, mouth stretching wide in silent screams. I stared, frozen, as the thing leaned closer to Kai, its hand, or what passed for a hand, hovering just above his shoulder. Kai didn't react. He just kept talking, oblivious, his smile stretched too wide, his eyes glassy and unfocused. But the thing behind him, it wasn't looking at Kai. It was looking at me. I know how impossible that sounds, but I felt it. The way its eyes, dozens of them, all shifting and blinking in and out of existence, locked onto mine through the screen. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I felt cold, like the air in my room had been sucked out, replaced by something heavy and ancient and hungry. I wanted to look away, to close the tab, to pretend I hadn't seen it. But I couldn't move. I was trapped, pinned by its gaze. It felt like hours, but it was only a second. Then the frame changed, and the thing was gone. Kai was alone again, laughing at a joke in chat, the room behind him empty. I sat there, shaking, my hands numb on the keyboard. I tried to tell myself it was a trick of the light, a compression artifact, some weird glitch in the stream. But I knew better. I'd seen it. And worse, it had seen me. I clipped the moment, desperate to prove to myself that I wasn't crazy. But when I tried to play the file, it was just static white noise and garbled images, the same as before. I tried uploading it, but every site rejected the file. It was like the thing had reached through the code and erased itself, leaving only the memory behind. I wanted to warn people, to post about it, to scream into the void until someone listened. But every time I tried, my messages disappeared. My posts were deleted, my accounts glitched out, My DMs bounced back. It was like the internet itself was conspiring to keep the secret. But I know what I saw. And if you don't believe me, go watch the VOD. If you pause at 2 hours, 13 minutes, and 47 seconds, you'll see it too. But I wouldn't recommend it. Once you see it, it sees you, and it doesn't forget. The worst part was the feeling that the screen wasn't enough to keep it out. I started seeing things in the corners of my vision, shadows that moved when I wasn't looking. My phone would buzz with notifications from accounts that didn't exist, messages that vanished before I could read them. My computer would freeze, the screen filling with static, and for a split second, I'd see those eyes staring back at me. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the thing, reaching for me, its mouths whispering secrets I couldn't understand. I started to wonder if I was still awake, or if I'd fallen into some kind of nightmare I couldn't escape. I used to think the internet was safe, that the screen was a wall between me and whatever horrors lurked out there. But now I know better. The screen is just glass. And sometimes, glass breaks. After that, things got worse. Much worse. I used to think closing my laptop would keep me safe. That if I just unplugged, if I just shut everything down, the fear would fade and the world would go back to normal. But the thing about nightmares is they don't care about your Wi-Fi signal. They follow you, leaking through the cracks, until you can't tell where the screen ends and your life begins. At first, it was just my devices acting up. My phone would buzz in the middle of the night, lighting up with notifications from numbers I didn't recognize. Sometimes it was just static, sometimes a string of corrupted emojis, sometimes a single word. Look. I tried to call friends, but the calls would drop or the audio would warp, turning their voices into a garbled mess. I left voicemails, desperate for someone to hear me, but nobody called back. I texted my best friend, Jamie. Hey, are you up? Something weird's happening. Call me. No response. I tried again. Please, just let me know you're okay. Still nothing. The next morning, I got a text from Jamie's number, but it wasn't her. Just a photo of my own house, taken from the street. No caption, no explanation. I stared at it for a long time, my hands shaking, trying to convince myself it was a prank. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I started seeing things outside my window at night. At first, it was just a shape of shadow that didn't belong, lingering at the edge of the streetlight. Then it got closer. I'd catch glimpses of movement, a flicker of something tall and thin, with too many joints, too many eyes. I'd close the blinds, but I could still feel it watching me, pressing against the glass. I tried to go about my day like nothing was wrong. I went to work, made small talk, tried to laugh at my coworkers' jokes. But everything felt off, like I was moving through a world that had been hollowed out and filled with static. My phone would glitch, the screen flickering with images I couldn't quite make out: eyes, mouths, shadows. Sometimes, when I looked in the mirror, my reflection would lag behind, just for a second, its eyes a little too dark, its smile a little too wide. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd feel something heavy pressing down on my chest, pinning me to the bed. I'd wake up paralyzed, unable to move, unable to scream, as the thing from the stream leaned over me, its face a blur of shifting static. It would whisper in a dozen voices, all layered on top of each other, telling me secrets I couldn't remember when I woke up. But the fear lingered, thick and oily, clinging to me all day. I tried to reach out to people, to warn them, but nobody answered. My DMs went unread, my calls went straight to voicemail. I left messages, my voice shaking. Please, if you get this, call me back. Something's wrong. I think it's in my house now. I hear it at night. But the only replies I got were more photos: my front door, my bedroom window, my car parked in the driveway. Always from different numbers, always at odd hours. I started to wonder if I was the only one left. If everyone else had already been taken, or if they were just pretending not to see me, hoping the thing would pass them by. The world felt empty, hollowed out, like I was the last person left in a city built of shadows. The worst part was the silence. The way the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to happen. I'd sit in my room, listening to the hum of my computer, the buzz of my phone, the creak of the house settling. Every sound felt loaded, every shadow a threat. I tried to tell myself it was all in my head, that I was just tired, just stressed, just letting the internet get to me. But then I'd see it again outside my window, in the reflection of my screen, in the static between channels on my TV. Always watching, always waiting. I tried to warn people, but nobody's talking about it. If you've seen what I've seen, it's already too late. I know how that sounds. I know you're probably watching this on your phone or your laptop, maybe with the lights off, thinking it's just another creepy story. But I need you to listen. I need you to understand that this isn't a game or a challenge or some viral ARG. This is a warning. Don't go looking for the clips. Don't scrub through the VODs. Don't try to find the exact frame or the exact timestamp. I know the temptation is there. I felt it too. The need to know, to see for yourself, to prove it's all just a trick of the light. But that's how it gets you. That's how it spreads. I used to think there was safety in numbers, that if enough of us saw it, we could fight it together. But the more people who look, the more it grows, the more it learns. I've seen it happen before. Other cases, other stories. You remember this smiling man incident? Or the null pointer account? They all started the same way. A glitch, a shadow, a warning nobody listened to. Now those people are gone. Their accounts wiped, their messages deleted, their names nothing but rumors and dead threads. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it because I don't want you to end up like me. Alone, paranoid, waiting for the next message, the next shadow, the next sign that it's getting closer. There's more I can't say here. Check the comments. Some of us are still out there, trying to piece together what's happening, trying to warn others before it's too late. If you've seen something, anything, leave a comment. Share your story. Maybe if we stick together, we can figure out what it wants. Or at least, we can make sure nobody else falls into the same trap. But be careful. Don't trust every reply. Some of them aren't real. Some of them are just echoes, or worse, bait. If you see a comment that feels off, that makes your skin crawl, trust your gut. Block, report, move on. Don't engage. I wish I could give you hope. I wish I could tell you there's a way out. But the truth is, I don't know anymore. The community used to feel like a lifeline, but now it's just another place for it to hide. I don't know how much time I have left. I keep telling myself this is just a story, that if I stop talking about it, if I stop thinking about it, it'll go away. But the truth is, it's already too late for that. The screen flickers as I record this, the lights in my room dimming, the air growing cold. My phone buzzes again, another notification from a number I don't recognize. I don't even bother checking it anymore. I know what it'll say. There's a static building in my headphones, a low hum that's almost a voice. I try to ignore it, but it's getting louder, closer. My camera glitches, the image warping, colors bleeding at the edges. For a split second, I see something behind me in the preview window, a shape, tall and thin, eyes blooming open in the darkness. I want to end this, to shut it all down, but my hands won't move. The screen freezes, then flickers back to life. Kai's face fills the frame, but it's not him. His features are stretched, his eyes too wide, his mouth opening and closing in silent, looping laughter. The background behind him is just static, a void that seems to pulse with something alive. He leans closer, his face almost pressing against the glass. He's here. He's static, abrupt end. If you see a new stream pop up, don't click. Or do. It's your choice. But remember, the stream never really ends. It just finds a new host, a new audience, a new set of eyes to watch and to be watched. Comment if you've seen him. We need to stick together. Maybe that's the only way to survive. Or maybe it's already too late for all of us. If you're watching this, it means I'm still here. For now.